Welcome to the VIP Developer Roundtable, where I, your host, Ben Kilsin Walters, ask our developers the big questions from the VIP community. Visit pantheonmmo.com/pledge to ask yours. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy. All right, welcome guys. It is that time of the month again, and I have another two Visionary Realms legends with me today. We have producer and director of communications Ben Machail Dean, and associate content creator Tony Guidi, plus myself, the host, Ben Kilsin Walters, community web manager. G'day, guys.
Good evening.
What is up? I don't think I'm a legend yet. On. I think Tony, the VIPs are correct, man. I don't think I'm a legend quite yet. It's going to take a while to get there.
Man, everyone gets legend status on the team. You've got to be a legend to be chosen, so.
Achievement unlocked.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so good to have you on, guys. We'll get stuck into it. The first question straight up is what goes into choosing what to show or how much to show in content releases? And I think we'll start off with Ben.
What goes into choosing what to show? Oh, yeah. So it is somewhat of a process. There's not like a set process that we go through, but we do have to consider what we've already said about any given thing, what we've shown, if anything. A big question: is it ready to show? Chris Perkins and I have this conversation frequently. I get super excited, and I'm like, you know what, this would be really cool. But he's good at keeping me in check sometimes, and sometimes vice versa too. But usually he's the one. You know what, it's going to be better in a little bit. Let's wait until then. And he's usually right. So that's part of the conversation that we have. Another thing that you may or may not be aware of, in some situations we'll kind of wait on something, mainly if we've got a lot of stuff going on. You know, if we're already focusing on a big thing like a class reveal or something, we try not to switch gears suddenly and show something new, like new shaders or something like that. For several reasons. One, we want to keep things going at a good pace, and we also don't want to burn through all of our content and load it all at one time, and then we go through a month where there's nothing really that new to show because it's all back end stuff or designing stuff. So there is definitely a lot to think about. The Hdrp is a good example of it. I mean, we've talked about it. You guys kind of have an idea of what it is. You've seen little bits of it, but we haven't done a big quote unquote Hdrp showcase. And there's a reason for that. When we do it, we want to do it right to show you what we've been talking about. So.
Yeah, good stuff. So are there any new content formats that you've been considering for the future, short and long term?
Yeah, we're always thinking about new things. This is sort of a group endeavor, so we talk a lot with the CM and the NPR team, but we also talk with everybody else on the team. Design and programming and tech, and because good ideas come from everywhere. But we're always trying to take a look at what's happening around the video game space. So we've looked at places like TikTok. I think at one point we were looking to see if doing like a campaign on Imgur would be good. Patreon, just look into different chats and forums. We looked into OnlyFans for a little while too. Yeah, see, that's exactly why we didn't go for it, because it has a certain stigma now.
I don't know if Kilsin went in with shirt off. I don't know.
Well, OnlyFans isn't naughty anymore, so maybe we can look out for Kilsin's OnlyFans account.
They backed out of that like 2 days later.
Oh wow! So it's back to be naughty again, is it?
Yeah. So
okay, I'll have to change my videos up.
We had considered it, but we thought, well, is that the audience that we want? Yeah, no, I'm not saying. They're going to be really disappointed with what Rise of the Fallen really means. But anyway. So there are always things that we're considering. We don't always move on them because we like to focus on what we do now and what we do well. And adding anything else, we don't want to adopt a platform and just not continue it. So we want to make sure that we're going to have the resources to continue on.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Tony, have you got anything on that, mate?
Yeah, Japa mentioned in the last VIP roundtable about getting like more natural streams going when the time is right. And I'm a huge fan of that. When I was part of like the Pantheon Plus team, we got to show some of that organic gameplay, and I think it went over really well. And I think like when it goes for like the content creator stream that Nathan and Bazgrim and I got to do, I just think that when the game is ready for it, it's going to be something really fun to do. And when I joined the team, I actually wanted to address different types of like content consumers, right? Because that's important too. And that's like, Ben, you talking about TikTok. There's people who are always on TikTok, right? And they're not on YouTube. Like that's the reality of it. So when I joined the team, what I really wanted to do was look at these types of people. So, live streams and VIP roundtables, we had 2 at the time YouTube showings that were, about an hour long. And this type of format works great for some, but not for everybody. So adding that podcast element, and Kilsin worked amazingly with me in that, to the roundtable to make it more, consumable on the go. Or like when you're at work, not wanting to work, which is, we think is a really big value in that, creating different ways to consume the content. The substance that Pantheon as a team already had was amazing, but broadening how it can be consumed is something I've always looked at. So I think there's still room for even more podcast style entries in the future that maybe aren't monthly, dedicated, but maybe topical that we can do that could be pretty cool that people can consume. But I also think that there's a lot of value in doing shorter videos, something to show off important moments or class releases like the Monk video or the 4K video we did from the co-stream, right? One of the big things I look at is like, we want to create things that are more shareable as well. So we need to look at our VIPs and our really diehard fans that want to consume the really long content, but then we want to give them something shareable so that when they're talking to their friends or their family members, they're like, oh, check this game out. It's pretty hard to throw an hour-long video at them and say, watch this.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So like making something more consumable that our fans and the people who support us so greatly can share out is super important. And, the other part of it is the newsletter. And we're probably going to talk about that a lot today. But, coming into the fold, I wanted that newsletter to be brought back. I think that while the media has gone to YouTube and podcasting, I think that text is still extremely powerful. And it gives consumers a way to consume it as they wish. They can read a part of it. They can read what they like. They can read all of it. And I just think it allows us to really look at all the different types of people that want to learn about Pantheon and try to give content out there to everybody. Now, the one thing is when you talk about MMORPGs, there's that fear of catering to everybody. But let's not forget that like MMORPGs have always been about bringing a lot of different gamer types together in a virtual world. Even EverQuest did that. Even anyone you look at brings people in from, they're not all gamers. Like MMORPG fans aren't just gamers. And I think that being able to tailor different ways to consume the content, not every piece of content is going to please everybody, but creating variation, I think is really important and a huge part of what I look at when we talk about content personally. So.
Yeah, that's it, man. Well said. And I think, look, obviously we're always looking to build on current projects and platforms. But yeah, look, from a SAM point of view, I'm always open to new ways of connecting with the community and wider public and just getting our message out there in the easiest, fastest, easy to digest, way possible. So it's something we're always working on. Question for you, Ben. What is the target audience for content at this current stage of development?
People who like Pantheon.
Good answer.
You want more details? All right, fine.
A little bit, please.
It's a bit of a mix. Our current fans are super important to us. Obviously, you guys have gotten us to where we are. You're always super supportive. So there's some of that. But as you guys know too, we still need to raise funds, and crowdfunding is a huge part of that. So we need to expand our audience. We don't want to go too quickly, so I may have spoken about this a little bit in the past too, but the general idea, early on we started off with kind of the diehard gamers that have tried some of the older MMOs and enjoyed them, but a couple things too. I mean, Pantheon is a very new game with some new ideas, but when we start to expand our audience, we have to think about that. So we start looking into other audiences. Now we don't. This is kind of tricky to say because we need at some point. Obviously, we're gonna get into mainstream audiences and introduce the game to them. Obviously, at some point, but we don't want to get too mainstream too fast because, as you guys know, development takes a long time. It takes an even longer time when there's a small dev studio and when it's crowdfunded. So getting people on too early now just doesn't make any sense. We always knew that keeping people interested for years was going to be a challenge, and it has been, but it's also been really good. But there's a whole group of people out there who are playing games who don't have the kind of patience that our current crowd does. So anyway, we're taking sort of a tiered approach to it. We're slowly adding more mainstream audiences, particularly as we get into alpha. We're expanding our audiences. So that's happening now. We're not turning the dial up to 10 and shouting from the rooftops just yet, but we are looking into other areas where we can start talking a bit more about Pantheon and get more people interested. Maybe the co-op gamers, the cooperative fans, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, exactly, man. As many people as we can get that can enjoy the Pantheon world and the hard work we put into it that'll integrate into our community well.
Yeah.
All right. So, serious question here: shouldn't we wait until late November, December to have Minus on, so all the bears will be in hibernation and he'd be allowed to walk about freely? I'm not going to say who asked that question, but it came up a lot. It was common to associate Minus and bears. So
we can't look at the forums to find out. I
had to cull a lot, but we got down to this one. So,
So I'm just going to say this. At this point, it's no secret I now have GM commands, so bears now tremble at the sight of me. Now, the only problem here is when, Kilsin or Ben want to try to kill me because I don't know really how to combat other GMs enforcing bears on me. But don't forget that both of the individuals that I'm on this current roundtable with are very familiar with a command that kills everything. So I really just have to study their doings to know that there's a way to get away no matter what they do. If they summon, 50 bears on top of me, we got that GM kill command that they're so used to using. So
we're on our own elite kind of score table, Ben. We've the only two staff members that have wiped an entire zone using the GM kill 2.0.
It's a short list, but it's a glorious one.
Yeah, I'm proud. All right. So yeah, I don't think Minus is ever truly safe from bears. So he knows that too. So he'll always be looking over his shoulder in game.
It's up in channel. Just wait until you encounter GM bears.
Yeah. We better not hire any bears.
All bears now have GM commands.
If we hire a bear in the VR, I'm going to have to reconsider.
Oh, man. All right. So as a community manager or marketer, what are some of the things you find most helpful to foster a good, non-toxic and or anti-toxic community? We'll start with Ben.
You have to set the tone. You have to set the tone early, and then you have to stick to your guns. Consistency is key. Consistency is key in a lot of things, but consistency is key there as well. That sometimes means that in some circles we may not be super popular, but gaming in general, let's face it, folks, gaming in general can be toxic, and often is. And we really, honestly, we need to protect our fans, and that again, that means consistency and set guidelines. And Kilsin, you're actually excellent at this. Everybody, I think, who's listening live right now will probably attest that you don't take much guff. You're guffless.
Guffless. The Aussie in me. That's an Australian coming through. Don't take that crap and just. I came from the community, so I know what I liked and what I didn't like. I know what my fellow community members liked and didn't like, and now being part of the team and integrating that into, how I operate, I'm always looking over both sides of the fence. I'm always testing the waters and seeing what the team can provide, what the community's feeling. And I'm able to react quite quickly, which is lucky for me. But, I can't take all the credit for this. Like, the community are the ones that set the mood and lead by example. It's which is something I strongly believe in. We put policies in place for toxic behavior, threats, and harassment, obviously, and would act on cases like that, case by case. But ultimately, it's you folks that create the community atmosphere and are the reason why our community is so awesome. All I do is, as a CM, is just encourage that kind of behavior and give gentle reminders or nudges back in the right direction when we kind of veer away from that. But only as needed. But for the most part, you're all an absolute pleasure to manage and are self-sustaining, which is fantastic for me and the team. And I think that's only going to help the community grow, into something bigger and better. All right. So we'll start with this one's for you, Ben. Do you see Pantheon being showcased or marketed in an upcoming PAX or similar type event, digital or in person?
Well, we are going to the OnlyFans convention, so no. I'd love to, and certainly that will happen again. It's not currently planned. Things that you kind of need to keep in mind is with these things, there's also a cost associated to it. So during COVID, obviously, it was not possible. There are virtual events that are looking more and more interesting though, but there's as I was saying, there's a cost associated to it. So when we do it, we have to be sure that we're going in with a way to sort of make up the cost, because otherwise it's not worth it. We want to spend the money that you guys are pledging. We want to spend it wisely. So whenever we do something like that, we really have to consider the cost and the payout. PAX East, which was the last one that we attended and exhibited in, was fantastic. We went in there with a plan. We spent very little. I talked to some of my friends in the marketing and PR industry and video games, but in particular, and they're flabbergasted at how little we spent because we were really, really smart about it. And we came out. We did a lot, like some huge promotions. We had that VIP PAX special promotion going on. We had some giveaways going on, and it was wildly successful. So we came out of there, having earned more pledges than what the associated cost was. So that's all I'm saying is when we do it, we have to make sure that it's worth it, and that it's effective. So, but yeah, there will be more. Just I can't tell you when yet because I just don't know yet.
It's funny, like the after almost 7 years of being with the company and loving every minute of it, I finally get an offer from the team to fly me out from Australia to an event on the only condition that I go by myself, and I now find out it's OnlyFans. How do I sign up for this stuff, mate?
Take what you get, Kilsin. Take what you get.
All right. So, what is your favorite type of guerrilla marketing, Ben?
Oh gosh.
What is guerrilla marketing? Just for those who don't know.
It's essentially looking outside the box. It's getting creative with non-traditional marketing techniques. It often means cost saving. So the sort of a bad category of guerrilla marketing is when you hear things like publicity stunts. That's often an attempt, usually a failed attempt at guerrilla marketing, or maybe a partially successful attempt, but it's that kind of thing. We do have to get somewhat creative because, again, we need to be wise with what we spend. So we've done, I guess you could classify most of the stuff that we've done as a light form of guerrilla marketing, because we've gotten really creative on how we can do this at such a low cost. So we've had some good successes there. We've done things like streams, and those are fun and effective. But again, we still need to kind of broaden our options a bit. Good news for all y'all is that we did have a meeting this week on how to effectively reach new audiences. And we discussed a lot of these things too. So we do have some good ideas. I feel they're good ideas. coming out. That was mainly through the NPR team, but we got some ideas again from the rest of the team as well. And yeah, we're gonna start executing those. In fact, next week I'm getting started on the plans for one or two of them. Not going to go into details yet as to which ones we've selected, but it's going to be pretty evident pretty soon. So
yeah, cool, man.
Yeah.
So what about you, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I think working with content creators or streamers is a great way to do like a modern guerrilla marketing campaign. But I'm going to actually tee that up because the next question is going to talk a little bit more about that. So how's that for a segue? How's that work for you, Kilsin?
Well done, mate. Better than mine so far. I'm still working on my segues. I need to read all the questions.
So it's almost like you knew the questions in advance somehow.
Yeah. What's going on?
With great power comes great responsibility.
All right. So mine is, what do you want to start doing that you have not been cleared to do?
Well, Ben, so
you asked.
Very surprised. So I'm going to be completely straightforward and be very, very open and honest here. This question could get me in so much trouble that it's crazy. Because one of the things when I first joined the team is I told Ben that I am going to throw a million ideas on the table. They won't always be good, and I expect most of them to be rejected. And that's kind of how I've always worked with improving process or just being creative in general. So whether it was like when I was in a band, yeah.
Sorry, to be fair, we met your expectations. A lot of them were rejected.
Yeah, it's happening. It happens every day. So no worries. But like even like I was saying, like when I was back in the band or even in my full-time job now, I tend to attack status quo a lot, and that's really what's helped me become successful. And it's about improving process. So believe it or not, like does sort of tie into content creation, even in those worlds I've been in before, because I always want to try to do something new and innovative that people want to look at. If I went into detail about all the things I have ideas for, I'd be listing a lot of bad ideas and ones that have been rejected. So the last thing I want to do is sort of toss something out there that's already said there's no way in hell we would do that.
I've got that list here next, mate. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And then, the community is like, hey, that would be a great idea. And I can just sense Ben looking at me through voice, like with the brow, But I can say comfortably, like when we were going through the hiring process, when I interviewed and I spoke to Ben, I really spoke to wanting to work with content creators to do special releases and to get them more content to discuss or even sometimes reveal. And I think that you can't do that with everything, but when the time is right, I think working directly with Basgrim, Nathan Napalm, Pantheon Plus, Disparate Worlds, and just all the other content creators who kind of surface as Pantheon supporters, that would be really enjoyable to me because that's something that I kind of came from, right? And I think that when you think about guerrilla marketing, what's better, like we were talking about before, what's better than, these content creators that are allowed to speak their free mind, that are allowed to say whatever they want, and us just giving them some crumbs to say, see where it goes. So I think helping to arm content creators and future content creators with additional tools to create content, to get their opinions out there, to get the community talking is exciting to me. So I don't know that we're ready for that just yet, but when that time comes, I think that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So what is the most interesting thing to you about your new role with VR so far, mate?
Oh, wow. I'd be talking all night if I went into this, but I'll keep it sort of short here. I thrive a lot on having a full plate. And since joining VR, the amazing team like here has allowed me, like Ben, Kilsin, Ronik, just on the comms team alone, have really shouldered, like allowing me to take more on or tackle new challenges. From working with the outside with Pantheon Plus, I knew that this team worked hard. And I'm not just saying this because of my appreciation, but I don't think anybody outside of being on this team really understands what the day-to-day looks like for everybody across this entire team. From the community team I work with, to the programming, to the art, to design. I mean, every piece of the puzzle, customer service. It's just crazy because everybody's so dedicated to this game and how to make it better and how to push it forward every second of the day. it's crazy to be a part of. Like, I'm not even sure anybody sleeps in this team. And I really thrive on that. I thrive on having more than I should and pushing myself and not being afraid to fail. And I think it's just really been awesome to take it all in more than anything. Like, the other part I'm going to give a big shout out to, especially on the comms team, is just the acceptance. I do not take this chance for granted. I am so fortunate to be able to do the things I do, to interact with the people I do, and to have a voice to how we make this game, you know, the greatest game ever, you know, whatever aspect that is. And I'm the new guy. And I'm here. I'm ready to earn that respect. But I'll tell you, the team here has been amazing. They've been accepting. They really push me. They allow me to push, allow me to be annoying, as you guys all know that I am. So it's the most interesting thing is just the amazingness of every single part of this team. Like, we hear it, we see it. I used to be in the community with you guys, but more than anything, it's a fraction. What we see on the outside is a fraction of how hard this team works. And when we talk about how many hats people have, it's not even doing it a service when we think we know until you see it. It's insane to me.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. That's something I noticed as well. And not only when I joined, but just throughout the years as well, how it continued, and just the amount of passion and effort that people put in and the willingness to want this to work and how hard they work towards achieving that has just been phenomenal over the years. I love it. All right, so moving on, got a question for myself. What are some of your ideas to get new content out to a wider audience? It's a good question. We're actually working on that now. So we brainstorm every so often in multiple different departments, but especially in CM and NPR, on how to, you know, freshen things up and see what we can do that's new, how to reach new people. But by far, like, apart from what Ben spoke about earlier, different platforms and what we're thinking about, what we want to try, word of mouth is the most powerful tool that we have available to us. So it's up to you guys. Like, if you know someone who hasn't yet heard of Pantheon or has lost touch and not seen all the new updates, reach out and tell them to come back and take a look at us now. Because, you know, I think you can agree we've come a long way since, you know, a few years ago and before that. And we're in a good place right now where we're continuing to make strides forward and incredible progress and starting to show all that off now. So, yeah, if you got guild members or family or friends or, you know, even just in other games without spamming, you know, advertisements, like, let them know about us. Send them a link, tell them to come check us out. All right, so what do Visionary Realms reply to potential players who believe Pantheon will force them to group and have social interactions? I like this question. It's two parts, but let's just go with that to start with, and we'll start with you, Ben.
Yeah, there's more to this post. Just to save time, I won't read it all, but basically, who the person who had asked this question had given an example of a friend who was reticent to check out Pantheon due to the impression that it was a group only game or highly group focused game. And while that is somewhat true, that there is, you know, a very deep dedication to making a good grouping game, we're not looking to force anyone to play any specific way. In fact, and I'm sure CP has talked about this in the past too. In fact, the emergent types of gameplay is what we're looking forward to the most. That being said, yes, there is definitely a motivation to play with other people, and we're going to continue adding those motivations to play with other people because that's the kind of game that we're making. We want it to be a socially engaging game. But we're not going to force you to group. But let's just say, honestly, if you want to get the most out of the game, just try it out. Just try grouping. Don't be too dismissive of it. You'll be surprised at what can happen. As most of us know, almost all of us know that you'll always be surprised at the types of people that you can meet, and you can make friendships that last forever. And that's the kind of thing that we want to sort of encourage and at least set the stage so people can have those opportunities. For me, I'm not a huge PvPer. I just generally stay away from PvP. I get too tense, and I just I don't like PvP in general. However, back in the days when I was working as a gaming journalist, we there's some MMO games that we had to review that were PvP focused. So I had to force myself to play these PvP games. But what I found was that most of my hesitation was sort of ill-founded. I thought I was going to have a terrible time, and in a lot of games I didn't like Warhammer Online, for example. I ended up loving that game, and it was almost all PvP. So yeah, I just encourage people to give it a try, not to dismiss it just because you think you're going to be forced to group. You're not going to be forced to group, but you will have a great time if you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, Pantheon won't just be a group-focused game. Like, you'll most definitely have things to do, like do things solo, like crafting, harvesting, adventuring, perception system, questing, and depending on your class and skill level, combat stuff too. Depending on your class and skill, how much combat is up to you. But there will be something for everyone solo. The group aspect is just a big part of our social interaction, and kind of puts the emphasis on community, and grouping will be a big part of that. But soloers will always have a fun world to play in as well. All right, let's get back to our first guest, our new guest, Minus. So we don't get to see or hear from you as often anymore. Are you keeping as busy as ever? And what does a typical day look like for you now, Minus?
It's funny because you reading it makes me laugh because you guys are all like, we see way too much and hear way too much of you. But it's kind of funny. No, it's a full workload. I'll tell you that. Just to be perfectly clear, aside from working with VR, I run a retail store that's a pretty high volume, and I have a pretty large team. Then I'm a part-time dad. Split duties for my 5-year-old daughter. So that's a big part of it. But between all that, I'm pretty much working on VR through all hours of the night. It's a passion for me. I couldn't really see it any other way. And I think anybody who worked with me and any of the other projects I did knows that. But right now, so my monthly key focus is scheduling of content. The team's really entrusted me, and I work with the comms team to schedule out how our content's going to roll out every month in advance. And that's where you guys are starting to see that schedule come out. Ronik does an amazing job putting that together for everybody once we kind of lay it all out. So he puts that graphic out there and sends it out to the team, with release dates and what we're planning. Planning the newsletter content and working with the communications team is a huge piece of what I do, because that also extends into working with other parts of the team and securing interviews and trying to keep things all organized. The newsletter in itself is a massive load. I know that doesn't probably look like it's a lot of work, but it's pretty intense.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah. And now, I started working with the stream planning team, and they've actually shifted me into being the stream engineer. So that little issue we had with sound that I got rid of on the YouTube version, that was my first jump into the stream engineering. Woohoo! And Ben, I think it was you who said to me, no matter what, something will happen. I believe you told me that at one point.
every single stream, something happens. And it's usually, 5 or 10 minutes before the stream. If it's not like right at the beginning of the stream, it's like, oh, here we go. But one week I had to reset up the entire scene, all of the scene. I had to recreate all of the scenes because I forget what happened specifically. Yeah, that's and we ended up starting like 15 or 20 minutes late that day. It's like, oh god. But there's always something. So when that happened, I was watching the stream, and I know that I could just see panic. The sweat. Yeah, I could just see the sweat, and I could just feel your trembling fingers on the keyboard trying to figure out what's going on.
And the best part about that, Ben. Yeah, the best part about that too is it's because I tried to go really crazy with like how the audio is portrayed, like because I use virtual cables and such. So it's really important to me, like each of the different audio channels you guys hear are through different channels, so I can adjust them. And the only reason that happened is because the streaming channel pickup is different than the recording. And I had all the recording perfect, but I didn't have the streaming. Literally click to box one. That's all I had to do. And I'm sitting there panicking. So it's pretty funny.
It's crazy. I mean, we believe us guys. Like, please believe that we do actually spend time setting it up and testing it. It's just Something always happens.
The last piece is, honestly, it's funny because you're both Ben, so I use your guys' names, but Kilsin, the VIP Roundtable, he's been such an awesome partner in working with that and kind of planning what it can be and helping with ideas on like what we could do. He was recording like the bumpers to turn into a podcast. So like, it's really cool that every time we do this podcast, I actually sit on and usually won't hear from me, but we're working together to record it, getting it uploaded. I take it out into Audition and produce it, cut out anything we have to cut out, produce the YouTube video, get it ready for podcasting. And I think that that's been awesome. Like, and Kilson's been an awesome partner in that. But I just love that, the biggest thing here is the basic duties. If you had to boil down everything, is just I am responsible for being the annoying squeaky wheel to make sure we do not miss a deadline. We hit our dates, we're trying to drive content, and we add more to the basics. So, I mean, I just again, I said this before, but I love the team has just really supported me on this, because like having me come in from the outside and just be like, hey, this is kind of what I want to do, has been awesome. So outside of that, it's just really about what smaller content pieces can we add to the schedule, whether, again, that's that high res gameplay, content pieces, or streams or reveals. And that's kind of the little pieces we want to put in as well. But it's a packed day. It's a lot of communication. It's a lot of working and trying to get ahead of where we are, not just what we have scheduled, but what's next.
Yeah, you've been doing a great job too, mate. Another one for you. You have a history of bringing people together in the community. So what are some ideas that the team has about bringing people together in Terminus?
I don't, this is a tough one to be directed at me. I don't want to speak too out of turn, because events and in-game stuff, that's really not like my forte. Like, I really don't have a whole lot of say in how that's going to work. But what I can tell you is, working with the team, I'm very confident in saying, as far as like keeping the community together, this team knows how important the community is. And Kilsin, I mean, coming from the community, as well as I have, like, every single step of the way that Pantheon's development has taken place. And Ben, you sort of joked about it earlier between you and Chris, like, who wants to show what and what's too early. It's this constant struggle of like, we want to show you as much as we can, but we don't want to ruin the game, and we don't want to show you something that's not ready to be shown, right? It's so tricky. So when it comes to like keeping the community together, my honest and easy answer here is like, once Terminus opens, everything we're doing right now and everything that the content creators and the community is doing right now to build relationships, it's not going to go away when the doors open. Even this early on, the valuable content is going to be walking into that world and knowing each other before you even start. There's a lot of value to everything that's going on now, but I'm sure that, I know, Ben, you've talked about it in the past, how much you loved old games events and GM events. And that's been a story from almost everybody on the team. Yeah. So I'm sure there's some really cool stuff that's going to happen, but that's really not for me to say. Unless there's like a purging of the elves. Purging of the elves might be my idea.
Look, there's lots, and I was heavily involved with Kurt on doing the guide system and GM stuff as well. So Mike's taken that up now, and we've got a lot of fantastic ideas that we're working on. But yeah, there's another question that comes up in a little bit about that, so we'll leave that for then for a little bit more detail. But switching over to Ben, at what point in the development process do you begin really spreading the word about Pantheon? And does the fact that this is partially crowdfunded game muddy those waters a bit?
I'll answer the second question first. It doesn't muddy the waters. It complicates things. It makes things different. You have to approach it differently.
Yeah.
And I mean, we touched on this earlier in the podcast too. But yeah, we're approaching it as a tiered approach. The main thing about going mainstream and going big and shouting from the rooftops is that once you do that, you have a very small window of keeping general interest, because people will forget about it very quickly.
Yeah.
And honestly,
there's no going back either. Once you say it, that's it. It's forward to release, otherwise you're in trouble.
I mean, you can retain some of your crowd, but you're gonna lose a lot if you do it too early. And I got to tell you, I mean, this industry has been around for a while, and the people who have already been doing it have worked it out to a science. So there's no point in reinventing the wheel there. When you go mainstream, when you go big, is 3 to 6 months at most prior to launch, sometimes even shorter. So that's kind of the area that we're looking at. That's when you'll start seeing marketing dollars actually go into, some big things. Prior to that, I'm not saying that we're not going to do any marketing prior to that, but that's really kind of the big stuff, is just right when we're pretty much ready to launch, 3 to 6 months out from there. But there's going to be steady rise leading up to that. So
yeah, good stuff, man. So we've seen monk class abilities preview, which was awesome, by the way, if I do say so myself. That was fantastic what you guys put into it. Do we plan on doing one of those for each class eventually, and who's up next?
Yeah, we absolutely. I know Tony is raring to make another one. The only reason, Tony can probably speak to it better too, but one of the primary reasons why we haven't done another one yet is just kind of figuring out our resources, making sure that we're not biting too much off every month. So we've got a couple months in now, and we're sort of working that out too. But yeah, absolutely, more will be coming. The plan is to do all of them. We were talking about doing the wizard or enchanter next. That's not locked in at all. That could change tomorrow. But we had some discussion around that anyway.
Yeah, cool, man.
Yeah, and
Tony
Kilsin, if you don't mind me jumping in there for a second too.
Yeah.
The other thing too is the monk. Like, in Ben Dean, you could probably comment on this too. The monk played so perfectly into timing, right? Like the monk, we had the charged abilities, which now that's a really cool thing. And we've heard Hdrp talk about how as we're evolving the classes, we're going back and looking at the classes again, because now these types of abilities are in, and certain classes could benefit from that. So it's monk came in, had these crazy animations, right? They were over the top. It's this physical combat, and it really was the combination of a perfect timing to show a class off that way. So when we think about it, if we were to take other classes, can we make a video that's as cool as that, with the animations and the styles of attacks? And as the classes are being developed, it makes it easier to do that. That kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the timing part, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's move on to, I think this has got me up first, but I think you go first, Ben. How will VR work to ensure that its community, for the large part, stays a community that is welcoming to new players and inviting for veteran players as well? I'm actually,
your answer is better than mine. That's why I shifted me to answering after you. So why don't you go first?
Okay, cool, man. So look, I honestly think by being consistent and continuing to lead by example, both for us within VR and the folks in the community, we've come an incredibly long way over the years, and our community matters hashtag is important to us. And as the CM, I intend to continue guiding the community in that direction of being welcoming, friendly, and mature, which you all are and have been for many years now. If we continue with these traits and deal with issues as they arise, quickly, I can see us, the community growing stronger and larger quite easily. We just need to stay on top of things and keep that transparency up. Keep talking to each other. You guys let us know when you've got an issue or questions or something, and we will get that answer to you as fast as we can, if we can.
Yeah. The I guess the one other component to that is CS. CS customer service plays a role as well. They're the ones that are answering all the tickets and stuff like that. And they, typically are in game, in the PA sessions, offering what support they can. It's very small team. They can't be on all the time, but they're building out a plan as well. They've got a few tool requests in that's going to not only provide CS with the tools that they need, but also in terms of the players, giving them the tools that they need to help get their issues resolved quickly and fairly. So it's a lot of pre-planning. It's just you got to be prepared because it'll come. You just want to make sure that everybody's in a good spot to be able to handle it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And this leads into the question of like, how will it foster positivity in the community for new and veteran players, as well as discouraging or cracking down on toxicity in the community? And you touched on this a little bit earlier, but basically it all comes down to what works for the majority of the community and the team. We've got a vision for our game and we won't be swayed. And, we're not going to listen to small groups of loud voices that scream, that the sky's falling, when we know that the larger community is happy with what we're doing and the team's on track following, basically the progress that we have been, setting stages and milestones for and hitting them as we go along. So we're always going to focus on the bigger picture and what works best for the community overall, with longevity in mind. And I think moving on, we've got another one from Minus. So what is your best MMO story or favorite memory in an MMO ever? Ever? And what is your favorite time or thing about Pantheon thus far?
Yeah, no pressure here, right? Like whatever I say, this has to be the best moment ever. I can't go back on it. Jeez.
Yeah, we judged on it for the rest of time.
Well, most of my favorite moments in MMOs really come from like leading a guild through like really tough odds. Like, and I think we've all been there, because like the guild that I ran, like if anyone knows what this means, we were what were considered ahead of the curve players. And it meant we were getting heroic content down before any nerfs changes, like at its hardest state, before, things changed and you would not be able to get that achievement. So that's not like the top 5% who did Mythic, but probably somewhere in like the top 20% of players getting this down. And the thing that was probably most exciting to me is I was never a guild that went out and only got elite players. We didn't, kick people out if they weren't good enough. We were really a guild that was based on helping people learn their class and teaching, as long as people wanted to learn. And we always had this motto that we would overcome any fight we could without meta. We maybe wouldn't be able to do it the way that the guides would say, but we always found a way to be successful in doing that. And to me, like taking people who were afraid to raid, literally like, oh, I can't raid, I'm not good enough, helping them overcome that, and then watching them become a top 10% player because they had that support, that was always super rewarding to me. And I think the one moment that showed that more than any, there was a fight in Legion, the Coven heroic fight is insane. It's probably harder than the Mythic fight. I'm not even kidding. And we actually had to kick out our 3 best, like the highest DPS players, because they had this toxic attitude and they were pointing fingers at people and blaming other people. We literally kicked them out after like a month trying to get this down every like week. And we kicked them out and we clear it the next week. Like no joke, because we took out people who weren't willing to be part of a team. And I've always been really blown away by what you can overcome without trying to tell yourself there's only one way to do it. So like when we talk about Pantheon, like I'm just excited for more opportunities like that. And every time I've been in the game, or anytime even when I was a community member, running in PA sessions, or when we get to see new stuff that comes out, it's just experiencing something new. And that's really not lip service. Like the first time I got into the world and discovered the Guidi bandits, we did that telling. It wasn't even a video. We just literally like gave an audio telling of it. And we found the mountain pass and we found our first named boss. It was just an epic experience. It was so hard at that point too. And Kilsin and Ben, I'm sure you guys remember this, but like healers were being one shot. The mage NPCs were ridiculous. Like if they hit you, you were dead. But like we were able to pull it together with like crazy out of the box strategies. We got a boss down, and like that moment, no matter what else happens, is going to live forever. It was like side by side with friends, figuring out something, and like that whole discovery. And I think that like when it comes down to like being a fan of Pantheon, that's what pulled me into the game in the first place, is like this massive world of adventure that isn't like other games. Like you're going to run past a hill or some place you're supposed to climb 100 times until the one time you see it and you climb up there and there's something amazing. Like the adventure and discovery that is the heart and soul of Pantheon really makes me excited for it. And again, it's not, I've said all this before I was part of VR. That's what makes this game so unique and so different to me.
Yeah, it's so easy, man. Good stuff. So leading on to that, we'll stick with you. What kind of events can build community among players, not necessarily characters, in Terminus? And what are a few ideas that you'd like to see as far as events in game?
Okay, Ben, earmuffs, and Joppa, if you're still listening, earmuffs. So I am going to tell something I would like to see. This might get me in trouble. I've always discussed how cool it would be to have yearly anniversary dates for the arrivals of the races on Terminus. So like the community's talked a lot about like holiday events and how it could be like really fun for the community to go through like the coming of the gnomes, the coming of the halflings, like when they got on Terminus, because I like holidays in MMORPGs, but I hate when they represent our holidays, if that makes sense. Like I don't want a Christmas in Terminus, but like celebrating the dark mirror, by the way, mirror, celebrating their arrival to the planet and that misery. Almost, it's not even like a celebration, like a mourning of that event. I just think it's really cool and it adds to more birth of like what Terminus is all about. So please know I am not confirming anything. I am not even in charge of any of this, but I think that could be really cool.
You just triggered Jopper in the comments with that mere pronunciation. I love it.
I threw it in there for everybody.
All right. For me, like, I don't want to spoil anything. I've been part of the GM setup and events. Like we've got a lot of good ideas for that. So I'm not going to spoil that. That will be coming. And you can bet on that too. But what I'm interested in is the community run events in game. And I'm really excited to see what you folks come up with. Like games like EverQuest and Vanguard and you name it, any other game. There's different cultures and communities in every MMO that play their way and have fun and set up, community oriented events like races and giveaways and, crafting, fun. I want to see what you guys can come up with in Pantheon with what we provide you. And that's going to really, I'm excited about that. The GM stuff I'd love to talk more on, but not yet. It's a surprise. All right. So Ben, serious question. Will VR be hiring an unbiased content creator for all elf-related content?
I'd reply, but I can't find my mic. Somebody took it. Well, we have a special patch that is dedicated. We call it the minus patch, and it's the only one that he's the only one who can access it, and it automatically downloads on his PC, where he's only able to select elves in different colored pants. So we figure after he walks a mile in their shoes,
I love it.
Nice. Now, see, on the opposite side, I'm proposing. So what I work on in my downtime is I have this huge like PowerPoint presentation. It's really innovative. Like it has like animations and stuff. And it's basically this proposal to replace elves in Terminus with like a bunny race, because, we want to attract different types of players. So I think if we take elves out and I make this PowerPoint presentation really good, that maybe we could just replace them with like a bunny race.
No chance. All right, so another serious question, very serious this one. How much stuff has disappeared since Minus has joined, asking for a fellow ninja looter? I think even though we work remotely, I've had at least one coffee mug go missing with a picture of a bear on it, and Tony says it wasn't him, but I'm not so sure.
So the funny part is, like, looking at all three of us, you could start a really good joke, right? A ninja looter, a ganker, and a trainer walk into a bar.
Yeah. Leave the community to work out who's who.
Oh, there's my mic.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. All right, so several MMOs, including some crowdfunded MMOs, have launched with very little or no marketing. Most of them have struggled or even closed. Can you, Ben, discuss any lessons you've learned from them and what plans you have to ensure Pantheon is properly introduced to gamers for a successful launch?
So you said earlier, Ben, that word of mouth is super powerful, and it is. So I want to start by saying that. However, in some cases, we've seen that some people believe it's everything. And don't get me wrong, a product can be successful. It can be successful on word of mouth alone, but that's quite rare, extraordinarily rare. It happens, but that's like the extreme outlier. So you really kind of have to pick your battles, and really timing is everything. Again, going back to what I was saying earlier, we can't keep people interested we can't keep the world interested in Pantheon for an incredibly long time. So we really have to consider what we're going to be. Sorry, I lost my place here. What lessons have we learned? I forgot where I was going entirely.
Your script.
You could probably tell because my script is. You could probably tell because my speech was really slowing down. I'm like, where's my point?
Like his mind is stealing his words as he talks. What is going on?
Yeah, no, but lessons learned is that you can't be you can't be successful on word of mouth alone. You do have to pick your battles. Timing's everything, and we can't keep the world interested forever. So since we're crowdfunded, we've obviously had to promote to keep pledges coming in, but we've been selective on the types of audiences and what we've been doing and how we've been promoting it. And we are, again, mentioned earlier, we are moving into phase 2 of, I call it phase 2. That's not an official thing. I just came up with that tonight. Phase 2 of the promotions, and that comes along with alpha. So that's when we're going to get more people, more eyes. But we'll have the content to support it then as well. So,
awesome, man.
So yeah, it's yeah.
Nice, mate. Well, moving on, straight on with another one for you. Word of mouth, as we said, have always been big in the MMO industry, even more so for crowdfunding. So do you have any events like Bring a Friend test days or public stream events or something like a referral program planned for alpha or beta in mind? This is funny because we just internally spoke about all this stuff like literally yesterday. So I like it. Good question. Good timing.
Yeah, we do. We do have some of that coming. Maybe even sooner.
I like it. Short and sweet. Okay, so you guys are both gamers. I'm a gamer too, but I'll leave this for you. From childhood to present, does any game's marketing stand out in your memory as being particularly great or memorable?
Ben, please tell me you remember the Sega marketing. Do you remember that?
What, the Sega?
No, the Sega. Like with the screaming. Oh,
that one.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Awesome.
It's a great bring up because there's a Netflix show that talks about like the eras of gaming, and they go really in depth on Sega trying to take Nintendo on. And at the time, Mario was like king, right? And I really like this marketing campaign because it was that whole like scream at the camera, things are fast. And of course that came from Sonic being so fast, right? They put all their eggs in one basket on Sonic and really drove it with that. And at the time, that was a very aggressive marketing strategy where they weren't hiding that they were going directly at their competition. We see that a lot more in marketing today with things like McDonald's and Burger King making fun of each other. Like I remember the first time you saw a McDonald's sandwich in a Burger King commercial, like, oh my gosh. But like Sega really, and it was funny because I remember I was a Sega kid. I was a Sega Genesis kid. And I was not a Super Nintendo kid. I loved the NES, but that marketing campaign was like cool back then. If you look at it now, like remember most things from the 80s aren't super cool right now, like the late 80s, but I really liked the aggression, the speed, the in-your-face campaign that Sega had. And then just as a side, because I know everybody said gaming, I have to give a huge shout out to the Wendy's Twitter account. Because I'm pretty sure that Wendy's Twitter team has single-handedly kept Wendy's going. And if you know what I'm talking about, you've enjoyed it. So
yeah, that's been good. All right. So in the interest of time, we're going to move along a little bit because we are pretty much on finish up time now. But we've got a few good questions, so I want to try to get a couple more in. Okay, this is a good one. So this is for myself. I believe you said champion pledges can now join the official Discord server. When can other supporters for general fans join? That is absolutely true. So we've got VIPs in. We've got so far about 385 champions of a few thousand. So I'm waiting for that number to hit around 500. When that does, I've got a community council that's formed. It's not a glorious title. These are very respected members of the community that have been voted in by the VIPs to basically be my helpers. So as we grow, I'm planning for the future. So as we grow into a big community, I'm not going to be able to continue to read everything and be as involved as I am. As much as I love that, it's just going to be unmanageable. So what I thought is to get you guys to help me. So you guys, the VIPs, have chosen 4 members to be part of this kind of, I call it a council, but it's just really, 4 uplifted members that are going to help be my eyes and ears. So if I miss something, they'll see it, and they're in a chat with me where they can tag me and say, hey, this was brought up a couple of times. And I can either go in and answer it officially, or I can give them an answer. And I've got 2 of my trusted mods in there as well, so they can help with any moderating stuff or quickly act on something that needs to be dealt with to go back on that whole toxicity and that kind of side of things. And I want to put 4 champions in there as well and round it out to 10 people, so we can get people from both tiers of VIP and champion. I want to see champions hit 500 before that happens, though. So there's a good selection of people to choose from. So you guys, you vote. I don't have anything to do with this. This isn't to do with developers. This is literally just me and a bunch of community members to try to better manage the community. So I really, want this to be fair and you guys to decide who's part of it. And yeah, once 500 hit, we'll get 4 more champions in. Then I'm looking at getting supporters in, and I'll do the same process for supporters. I'll open it up. I'll give them a link. They can self-tag themselves. And then I'm looking to do the public as well. So once all the tiered people are in that have paid for pledges and then have supported us and been so good to us over the years, I will then allow the public in after that. So yeah. If you know someone who's a champion that's not in, give them a link towards the official forums where I've set out instructions on how to join and get as many of those in as possible. All right, so another one for myself. Kilsin, how has the addition of Minus to the team helped with your side of things? Tony's been a great help with many things, but to pick a few, he's been amazing helping me up the production value on the developer roundtables. These I think, have taken a step in the right direction and gone up. I hope you guys agree. He's helped me with putting the intro and outro together, separating the audio tracks. So if, say, Ben or Tony's talking or Jopper and I cough or my cat makes a noise or there's a bird out the window, he can mute me while the other guys are still coming through loud and clear. He can adjust voice levels. So that's a little bit out of my technical range and knowledge. So having him help me with that has been fantastic. He's also, as he's spoken about, organising the newsletter, which has been a great help. He's helping me write the intro piece to all the community highlights that I do, which I'm very appreciative of. And yeah, he's a good guy, man. It's good to have him on the team. We appreciate him a lot.
What people don't know is I wrote that question just to hear Kilsin say something about me. I'm just
I was sort of chuckling a little bit about it because Kilsin's like, oh, and we're almost out of time. But let me ask myself a few questions.
Yeah. I saw those last 2 and realized that one I'd asked was the actual last question. So
just craving the attention, always craving the attention, Kilsin.
I know, man. What the hell? I'm usually humble. I try to hide this stuff, but I got caught out. But yeah, I do want to thank you guys very much. It's been fantastic. We've just hit over the hour mark, and it's been a lot of fun having you on, Ben, again. We had a big dry spell, man. I haven't had you on for a while, and now I've had you on multiple times. So
now you're sick of me.
No, not at all. And Tony, welcome. First appearance of many, mate. It was good to have you on.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it a lot. It's fun to get out there and start chatting again.
Absolutely, man. And yeah, from all of us here, thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate the support and also love having you here for these live developer roundtables. We look forward to seeing you for the next one. I'll again put up the post in about a week or so to let you know who it is and get those questions out there. But until then, thank you very much and hope you guys have a great month. Cheers, guys.
Here.
Take it easy, guys.
Thanks, folks. That's a wrap for another VIP Developer Roundtable. I hope you all enjoyed it, and please don't forget to subscribe to Pantheon for more. If you want to get in on the live developer roundtables, you can by pledging as a VIP at pantheonmmo.com/pledge. Until next time, farewell.